Hello and welcome to another episode of Anfield Watch. Today I wanted to talk about Bradley Barcola because there's a lot of links to him at the moment. Liverpool obviously wanted him last summer, and right now it looks like Liverpool are going to be interested in him again this summer. It looks like he's ready to move on from Paris Saint-Germain, and he's a really interesting player, and I think he's someone who would suit Liverpool a lot, and I do really like him as a player. There are some positives and cons as always with this signing, but yeah, I just wanted to basically come on and record a video about him because I've been watching him quite a lot recently for PSG, and I wanted to also sort of compare him with Yan Diomande, who's obviously the other big Liverpool target, and also talk about whether I have some question marks about who this Mo Salah replacement is going to be as well, because I certainly don't think Barcola would necessarily fit that mold. But let's sort of just get into it straight away and talk about the profile that he is. And with Barcola, he's not necessarily an elite 1v1 dribbler. You know, he's not a winger who loves to be on the ball constantly, loves to receive the ball on his foot, and go on mazy runs, take on lots of players. He's not also necessarily successful when you're looking at his data in terms of his dribbling over his career. He's completed less than 50% of his dribbles. I think it's around 44 to 46%. So when you're comparing that to Yan Diomande, who's getting close to 70% or is in the upper 60%, and Lamine Yamal or all these other players who are around 60%, obviously you're nowhere near, or Jeremy Doku is another example. He's nowhere near that level. He's kind of like 15 to 20% off of that level. But what he is, and what I really like about him, I think what Liverpool do need, he's someone who loves to make these forward vertical runs off the ball, running in behind defences. He's really fast. I think he's one of the fastest wingers in Europe's top 5 leagues, and he just loves to run and stretch defences and go in behind defences and create chances through that, or score goals from those situations. Even the data proves this as well. He, I think, ranks in the 99th percentile for through balls received and the 98th percentile for progressive passes received. So you're seeing the data sort of back up what you're watching in the games as well, that ability to constantly stretch defences. And if you're looking at what Liverpool have in their attack at the moment, Rio Ngamoura is very a ball to feet kind of player. Mo Salah the same, Cody Gakpo the same. Maybe only Jeremy Frimpong is the only type of player who sort of loves to run behind defences, or perhaps Milos Kerkez, but they're fullbacks, and you need a winger who can do that as well. I think Sadio Mane was one of those players. Luis Diaz was another one of those players. Darwin Núñez as well. Right now, Liverpool don't really have that profile of an attacker. So in that sense, Barcola is a really good fit. On the left wing, you'd then ideally have Rio Ngamoura, who is an excellent 1v1 player, who's a ball to feet player, which Barcola is not. I know in that video I said in the start of this video, I said he's not an elite dribbler, and what I mean is just on the numbers, but he's a very good technical player as well. And I sort of wanted to talk about his dribbling a little bit, in the sense that why I think he's not an elite dribbler, and why I think he's sort of not successful in as many of his dribble attempts as, for example, someone like Yan Diomande or even Rio Ngamoura, if you're looking at Ngamoura, or Lamine Yamal or Jeremy Doku. And the factor I think behind it is Barcola is a very technically gifted player. He's got really fast feet. His ball manipulation is really good. I think where he struggles is physically. Sometimes if he comes up against a more physical opponent, he can be bullied off the ball. So he can be knocked off the ball. He can, I think if he's double marked, he's not necessarily someone who can come out of those situations regularly, in comparison to someone like Jeremy Doku or even a Yan Diomande this season. So that's, I think, something to note. That's something to caveat, because I know Liverpool fans want a 1v1 specialist too, which I don't think Barcola is necessarily that. He's someone who might frustrate people when he's on the ball, and when he gets the ball to feet, because sometimes he can lose the ball, and he can be wasteful in those situations. Whereas I think with Yan Diomande, he's less likely to lose the ball in those duels. But then again, with Barcola, you have the same quality that Yan Diomande possesses. And I think, again, this is something that Liverpool need from their wingers. And that's the ability to go down the byline, to look up and to try and create chances. Again, when we're looking at chance creation, Barcola is in the 90th percentile when it comes to that kind of data. And he's a really creative player in that sense. Like, he's always looking to feed and supply the attackers, the forwards, with cutbacks. When he gets in behind defenses, that's what he's trying to do. And again, when you're looking at what Liverpool don't have at the moment, it is that type of player. Gakpo and Salah, what's their first thought when they get it in and around the box? It's not necessarily, and this is not a criticism on them, but because you have different profiles of players, but their first thought normally is to shoot. And right now, with Liverpool bringing in Isak and obviously Hugo Ekitike, you don't necessarily need as many wingers looking to shoot. You need some wingers who are looking for those cutbacks, who are looking for those passbacks. And with Barcola, he is someone who does like to do that, who does do that on a regular basis. With his frightening pace and, with his technical qualities, he's also very good at finding teammates in favourable positions inside the box. So those things I really like about him. And then on top of that, another aspect that, Liverpool have missed this season is that intensity in the attack. And once again, when you're looking at pressing numbers, possessions won and the opposition's final third, Barcola ranks really highly in all those metrics. And if you're watching the games, and this is why, again, I go back to why, the dribbling completion numbers don't necessarily tell you the full picture, because what you will see is when Barcola loses the ball, he will fight to win it back straight away. He's got that hunger, he's got that energy, and a lot of the times, because he's so quick, he uses that speed to win the ball back really quickly. And again, it's a really exciting part of his game, because he's just regularly pressing when his team loses the ball, and that's something we don't see Liverpool players doing. We were accustomed to Liverpool players doing under Jurgen Klopp, with Sadio Mane, with Mo Salah, and with Roberto Firmino, but we don't see it as often. And Barcola does offer that. He does bring that. He is very much that high intensity player. Now I think obviously the main question mark is over the transfer fee. I'm not quite sure what PSG will be demanding, but I think for the argument's sake, let's just say it's probably going to be around the same price as Yan Diomande. Now, the question mark here for Liverpool is you have a 23-year-old who's going to be 24, Barcola, with so much experience playing in the Champions League, with so much data available from playing at PSG. He's averaging 0.74 goal contributions per 90 minutes at PSG. You have all of this data. You have years and years of data on this player, and it's good data. It's impressive data. I mean, Barcola, I think, is up there with probably the top 10, 15 player wingers in his position in Europe's top 5 leagues right now. So you have this player, lots of data, lots of proven data that he can deliver in the Champions League. He can deliver in a strong league in France. On the other hand, you have Yan Diomande, who you have maybe a more impressive data set, but the size is a lot smaller. So the price is the same. Again, he's several years younger, so his potential could be higher, but you don't fully know. You're taking a risk there. You don't know if he's going to improve. player development is never a sort of linear process. It's ups and down. It's turbulent. And again, you never know. He could pick up an injury and he could never not be the same player again. So it's a tricky situation for Liverpool to sort of figure out. Do you go for the player with the more impressive data set, but the less sample size, or do you go for Barcola, who's still got a very impressive data set, but not that much of, but a much bigger sample size? So there's two options here to sort of weigh up for Liverpool. And on top of that, I think the other interesting factor is Yan Diomande clearly likes to play as a right winger. That's his preferred option. That's where Leipzig deployed him. Having spoken to his youth coaches, that's where he likes to play. And obviously, you're looking for a Mo Salah replacement first and foremost. I don't dispute that you also need to bring in Luis Diaz replacement, or your next Sadio Mane. But first and foremost, you're looking for a Mo Salah replacement. And with Barcola, whereas he has played a fair few amounts of times on the right wing, his clear preference is to be a left winger. So the question mark here is, what's the plan? Basically, Yan Diomande is the player who could potentially be that right winger replacement for Mo Salah. He's not necessarily predominantly a left-footed player, but he is very comfortable with his left foot. If you're looking at his share of goals, a lot of his goals have come with his left foot. So he's comfortable in that side, and I know he puts a lot of work into perfecting his left foot. Barcola, I think, is a lot more of a right-footed player. His preference is definitely to play on that left side. As I think an upgrade on Cody Gakpo as a replacement for Luis Diaz, he would be the perfect option. But I think the tricky thing here is, who do you splash the money for? Do you splash the money for your Luis Diaz replacement, even though you've got a really promising young Rio Ngamoa coming through, who could, in a couple of years' time, be that next Luis Diaz? And maybe in the intermediary stage, you bring in a less impressive left winger, for example, like Abdi El Zazouli, the Moroccan left winger for Real Betis, who has been linked with Liverpool. You could potentially bring him in for maybe a fraction of the price that Barcola would cost. And he's not as good of a player as Barcola, but he has similar qualities to Barcola. And then you bring in Yan Diomande as that right winger, as that big money replacement for Mo Salah. Or do you bring in you bring in Barcola, and then you have two really, really talented left wingers, but then maybe you left with, having to go with Jared Bowen as your right wing option, as he has been linked, and sort of putting the long-term Salah replacement aside, which I do see sort of merits and arguments for, because Yan Diomande, as much as I like him, I think it's a massive risk to spend so much money on him, and I think it would be a huge gamble. There's no questions about it. I would like him to be at Liverpool, but the money that Leipzig are demanding at the moment, I think for those prices, I can see why Liverpool would be reluctant to pay the money for him. But then if you're looking outside of Yan Diomande, if you're looking at the right winger market at the moment, there is no elite player that screams out to me like, oh yeah, Liverpool should be looking at him, Liverpool should be signing. So I do see the sort of sentiment behind Bowen as a stopgap option. He is, consistently delivered in the Premier League. He's still quite quick. For a couple of years, he could be a really solid addition for Liverpool. And on top of that, obviously, he's homegrown as well, which we know Liverpool have an issue with their homegrown quota at the moment. So ultimately, I don't know where I really stand. I know I really like Barcola, and I think he'd be a really good fit for Liverpool. I think, his speed, his intensity off the ball, the way he runs in behind defenses. And I think, I don't think, I think a lot of people speak about his finishing as being a negative, but I don't really, I've not seen that personally. And I don't think the data sees that as well. I think if you're looking at his career XG as a whole, he has just a slight overperformance, which is not something to be massively concerned about. I think his XG is around like 0.32 per 90, and he's averaging maybe 0.34 like goals per 90 minutes. So it's not massively, it's not a huge overperformance. He tends to be, quite level with what the expected goals or what the data expects him to score. He tends to score those chances. And, I think with every winger, with every attacker, you're going to have highlights where they miss chances. I think what you're looking for is volume. You're not going to have a striker who scores 10 out of 10 chances, but if a striker gets 10 out of 10 10 chances per game and scores 3 goals, you're not going to be complaining. And I think what is more encouraging is he does get in those positions, and he's a dangerous player in that sense as well. But ultimately, first and foremost, Liverpool will not need him to do that in an ideal world, because you've got Alexander Isak, and his primary purpose will be to feed Isak and to provide him with chances. And Barcola is an excellent option for that. I think he's one of the best options on the market for that. And I'd be really excited if he was to come to Liverpool. I think it'd be a really good fit. But I want to know your thoughts as well. Please do make sure to leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because it helps us massively. So thank you very much.